One, a good Sabbath day with the blessings and the holiness and the delight of the Sabbath coming our way. It is my honor to be with you this morning. Thank you for inviting me to come and speak into your home, into your computer screen, into your phone, into your car if you're using CarPlay, Apple CarPlay, or one of those things. Thank you for letting me be a part of this. Let me know where you are and what I can do to pray for you or to answer questions you may have, or just give me a greeting from your native land. But it's so good to be with you and share this Sabbath morning. This morning we are in Parsha number 13. The Parsha Shemot. It is called in the Hebrew. It begins with Exodus 1 and 1 and goes through Exodus 6, verse 1. So it's basically 5 chapters plus one verse. It's quite a bit of material to cover. Do not expect us to get through it as far as being an exhaustive coverage. What we will do is try to hit what the Moshe is going to learn about, what the Holy One is going to teach us about, which is Devarim, the holy, inspired words, inspiring words, words that carry the weight of his majesty, his glory, that carry eternity in them. Devarim. English translations just say words. Or sometimes things, but the idea, this is heavenly messaging. We get instant messages from people through social media. We do what? This is instant messages from heaven. Devarim are instant messages from the courts of heaven, and they carry weight, and they inspire, and they empower, and they awaken the deep spirit-to-spirit communication, and awaken the neshama, nishmat hayim, the breath of eternal life that is within each soul. So we're going to try to focus on the devarim that are contained within Parsha Shemot, as we do the entire book that's known, the Western world has come to know as Exodus. Okay, so here we are. This is what I call building the promised great nation from the seed of Abraham out of Nile River slime. Oh, you thought the nation was going to be built out of heavenly things, and to some degree, heavenly things will replace the Nile River slime. But we're going to start our journey toward nationhood. We're going to begin toward our collective mission, our collective purpose out of Nile River slime, making bricks for Pharaoh, backbreaking labor, suffering, perseverance, all the things that the Holy One said would happen, enduring insults and hatred and prejudice from a paranoid schizophrenic people, all obsessed with the flesh, all obsessed with the occult, all obsessed with their pseudo-intellects and their superiority ethnically, racially, nationally, culturally, religiously. They think they are superior to us, and therefore they insult us. They fear us, and yet they hate us. Or they hate us because they fear us. And so we'll see how these things work. And out of this Nile River slime that we begin our journey with, we will see a great nation slowly begin to arise, brick upon brick, living stone upon living stone. The idea of what is going to happen, the devarim that are going to be released, are designed to awaken. If you get this down right, if you get this thought process going before we get started, we are calling, this whole book is going to be about awakening the scattered seed of Abraham, the sparks of the Abrahamic soul, to collective identity and mission and destiny. We are not just individuals following the creator of the universe, seeking to be the best individuals we can, good people, as some may call it, whatever label you want. We're not just that. We are something else. We are a collective identity. We are a collective mission group. We are a collective destiny group. We are Am Yisrael. And as you know, if you know the Hebrew songs, you understand Am Yisrael, Hi, the nation of Israel, the people of Israel live. There is a life force in it. Well, the idea of the Devarim that are contained within Sefer Shemot, and also Parsha Shemot, the first portion of Sefer Shemot, is to awaken the scattered seed of Abraham to our collective identity, to our collective mission, to our collective destiny as Yisrael. Now, the vision to see as we begin to get started, what should we have in our minds? My question might be asked. As we begin this journey through the book of what the Western world called Exodus, as we begin this, phase 2 of the great grand redemptive plan, phase 2 of the great wisdom download from heaven about man's relationship to his creator, to the creation, and to one another. As we begin this phase 2, what picture should we have in mind? And I would encourage you to have in your mind, to call up to your memory the vision of the box that contains Joseph's bones. Joseph's bones. And listen as you try to focus, try to concentrate, try to imagine an unburied sarcophagus or aron, ark, a box of bones that were Joseph's bones, sitting unburied in Egypt as a scandalous thing that might happen, testifying always, the Holy One, your God, will visit you, and he will pakad you. He will call you forth and muster you, and rally you forth, and he will bring you up out of this land, back to the land of your fathers. Now, this is the promise, and these bones, this box of bones, is testifying to us. If we don't understand that, we will not understand the rest of this book. We will understand the wisdom call, and the message or the sounds of the voice, the devouring that I want you to hear as you meditate on this imagery of the box of bones of Joseph sitting unburied in Egypt, speaking to everyone who walks by or in the vicinity, is the message that we find later in the book of Ezekiel. The prophet Ezekiel is asked, son of man, Hatikyena ha'atzmot ha'ele, can these bones live? Oh, I hope you hear it. I hope you feel it within your spirit. The bones of Joseph are unburied. The bones of Joseph are very dry and very dead. But can these bones live? Can the nation that arises be the epitome, the essence, the resuscitation, the resurrection of Joseph's bones? Can we look like that? Can all Israel be in the world and among the nations like Joseph? Can we be this picture? Because Joseph is the picture that the whole book of Genesis drew as the ultimate kind of relationship we were supposed to have with the Creator, the ultimate kind of relationship we're supposed to have with creation, the ultimate relationship we're supposed to have with fellow brothers and our family, and the ultimate relationship we're supposed to have with the world. Well, we'll see how this. Can these bones live? I hope this image is in your mind as we look at the times ahead of us, as we look at the world around us. Can the bones of Joseph live? Can a resurrected form of Joseph be alive in all of us as a community, as a collective, across the world, in scattered houses and villages, in different nations, in different countries? Can the bones of Joseph come to life? And may we have the same character and attributes, and may a nation form out of those bones. We have to understand that that's going to be the case. If we're going to be a great nation, and we are, because that's what's been prophesied over us, and if this is going to arise in all the corners of the earth as it is going to, these are the 7 characteristics of the Joseph way, the Joseph persona. If you want to know, can these bones live, it will have these 7 characteristics. And they don't come all at once. They had to develop in Joseph's life, and they will develop in each of our lives and in our collective community lives over a course of time. But the first part, the first element of the Josephian way, the Josephian persona, is to have a vision for a great harvest and for divine order. These represent the first 2 dreams of Joseph. We should all have the Josephian dreams, a dream of a great harvest time to come. Not something about who's going to bow to who. It's going to be a harvest. That's the essence of that dream. And the aspect of where Joseph fits is to have, well, we'll get to that, but humility in the midst of all that process. And then the second dream was divine order, that all of the cosmos, all of the heavens and the earth will come into a divine order, and earth will be a reflection of the beauty of heaven, and there will be a return to the Edenic state. This is the harvest will yield the great harvest of the ideal of the plan of the Holy One for the earth and for all of creation. So that vision, first item of, can we have this vision? Do you have this vision? Or are we merely a bunch of ideologues or a bunch of religious people or a bunch of theologians? No. Do you have the vision? And let the bones of Joseph arise. And let the spirit of Joseph fill you and give you that vision, dear ones. Second thing, after the vision of the great harvest and of the divine order. The second Yosephian characteristic, the persona that we need, he developed a commitment to fruitfulness and harmony on earth. Fruitfulness in private life and in national life, and harmony upon the earth. You see this develop in Joseph over the course of his life. And the third thing is prioritization of the Father's will. In Joseph's case, it was Yaakov's will. But in our case, it is the Father of all living being. And Joseph developed that as well in his latter season, in his second coming season. So third element, can we develop as the nation, the great nation that's coming forth, being brought forth at such a time as this, for such a time as this, a prioritization of the Father's will over our own self-interest, over our own personal feelings or convictions? Can we prioritize the Father's will? Yeshua, the Master, our Rabbi, taught us. He said, my brothers and my sisters are those who do the will of my Father. That's what the characteristic is. Can we see the third of the Yosephian characteristics arise and make this part of a great nation? It comes slowly. We develop learning that our will is not a good way to fix the world. His will is the way to fix the world. The fourth of the 7 characteristics of the Yosephian personality that should form the character, the basis of this new nation, is not to be false, have false humility, not to think of ourselves less than we are, but to think of ourselves as who we are, and yet not have presumptuous piety, not to assume we're better than other people because of who we're called to be, not because to assume that somehow they have to listen to us because we are, quote, right. They don't have to. Our job is to humbly, with true humility and not presumptuous piety, understand our special status, understand the special calling and favor upon our lives, understand our special relationship with the Creator of the universe, and not lord that over anybody, and not bring it up. Let it become a reality in an action, proof of action, and do so by maintaining at all times a servant's heart and a servant's attitude and a servant's demeanor. That is Joseph. That is Joseph's persona. That is the persona of the new great nation that's being built from Abraham's seed. Here we go. The fifth of the characteristics of the Yosephian way, the attributes of this new nation, peoples that we're called to be, is a dedication, discipline, diligence. Dedication, discipline, and diligence. How are you with dedication to the Holy One's plan and the Father's will? How are you with disciplining yourself? Musar, focusing your activities in such a way that the Father's will weeds out, pushes away, displaces all your own private, personal interests and will. Third thing, diligence, persevering, staying at the job, at the task of discipline and dedication, leading to excellence in all. So I'm going to go over it again. There are 4 attributes to this. Dedication, discipline, diligence, leading for excellence. This is the Yosephian personality. This is the new nation that's being called forth. This is the calling that you have upon your life to bear the sparks of the Yosephian soul, the messianic soul. And whenever we talk about the Messiah in you, the hope of glory, these are the elements of the characteristics, the attributes that we're talking about. Joseph was our picture of the Messiah. Joseph was our picture of Yeshua HaMashiach. The 6th of the 7 characteristics of the Yosephian persona that I want you to get a picture of, get a hunger for. I'm hoping these are devarim that are popping into your spirit and awakening your hunger and your desire to fall into the place of the plan for the Holy One for your lives. The 6th one is enduring insult and persecution, and carrying others' burdens and guilt and shame and their sin without a hint of complaint or bitterness. This is the Messianic way. This is the Yosephian way. This is the way of the new great nation that the Holy One is calling forth. The one that will keep building and keep growing and keep fine-tuning and shemaing and tuning into the right message until the latter days and the final coming of Mashiach to illustrate it to all. The 7th, the final of the characteristics that I'm going to talk about of the Yosephian persona, of the Messianic way, of the new nation attributes is to be masters of forgiveness. Excellent at forgiveness, good at forgiveness, inclined to forgiveness, inclined to mercy, inclined to redemption protocols, following redemption protocols, not Lone Ranger, loose cannon kind of approaches to making it the way you want to, following kingdom redemption protocols and following kingdom restoration process, following kingdom redemption protocols and following kingdom restoration processes. I hope you see Joseph in all these 7 characteristics I've just given you. I hope you pause this from time to time and go back and listen to these 7 attributes. This is who you are, dear one. This is what you are called to be. This is the what into what you are called to grow and to teach your children and your children's children to grow. A vision for the great harvest and a divine order, not to displace all the things the world wants you to focus on. A commitment to fruitfulness and harmony on earth as it is in heaven. 3, a prioritization of the Father's will over your own self-interest and over even your own personal feelings or your wounds or scars. 4th, not having false humility or presumptuous piety, but instead understanding your special status and your favor and your calling and your special relationship as a chosen one of the Holy One, but yet maintaining humility and a servant's heart, a servant's attitude, and a servant's demeanor. 5th, focusing your life, dedication, discipline, diligence, leading to excellence in all that you say, in all that you do, even in the way in which you present yourself to the world. The demeanor, the clothing, the attitude, the way in which you carry yourself, the bearing that you carry, you should carry the weight of the glory of God. Number 6, enduring all kinds of insults and persecutions and attacks from others and carrying others' guilt and shame and burdens and their sin without complaint and bitterness. And 7th, becoming a master, a teacher of forgiveness, a rabbi of forgiveness, of redemption protocols, of the heavenlies, and of restoration processes, rather than just trying to do what you think is right under a given set of circumstances, or what you think is just in a given situation, or what you think is moral. That's phase 1 wisdom. Beyond, it's actually not even that. It's lower level wisdom of this earth, of this world, of demonic wisdom, as book of James, Yaakov would say, in chapter 3. Well, those are the Josephian way. That's the calling. We're to become a nation that was like unto Joseph, with an impact like unto Joseph's impact upon the world. Joseph did not just have an impact upon his brothers. He just didn't just have an impact on Egypt. He had an impact on all the nations, all the peoples of the world, and all flocked to him, and he served them all. So the dry bones of that Redeemer, the dry bones of that dreamer are still prophesying to all who listen as we begin our studies in Shemot, in Exodus. The dry bones of that dreamer, that Redeemer, are still prophesying to everyone who will listen. And here's what they're saying, I believe. I'll ask these to become devarim, to go directly into your spirit. Joseph speaking from those bones, saying, I have shown you the way. Who will walk in it? Well, it's time for us to sing the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam Vayed. Listen and hear, O Israel. The Holy One, your God, the Holy One, he is a complete unity. He is in everything, everywhere, binding all things together in one. Blessed be the name of his glory, his kingdom forever and ever. Amen. Let the bones of Joseph arise. May the persona of Joseph rest upon you, awaken within you, and may you come forth with your own unique manifestation of it, fitting in with the great collective. The high calling of Am Yisrael, of the nation of Israel, of the people of Israel, is to serve as the Creator's model nation, much as Joseph served as the Creator's model individual, the model of Messiah. We, as Am Yisrael, as a collective, are called to serve as the Creator's model nation on earth. It sounds heady, I know. It sounds insulting to the rest of the world in some regard, I know. It's not intended to be. The world needs a model. The world needs an illustration. The world needs a pattern to follow. The nations don't have, they have no white lines on their highway. They have no markers, they have nothing to warn them. They just go wherever they wish to go and wherever their flesh and their pseudo intellect and their leaders tell them. we, we are to be a model nation on earth, pointing and leading the way to knowing the Holy One and his plan for creation and mankind, the way to walk in and embrace and revel in his wonder, the wonders of the creator of the universe, the awe, the majesty, to the point the way and lead the way to do his will, to do the good plan that he has created for mankind and for creation. The point the lead and the way and lead the way to walking in his ways. He will teach us his ways and we will walk in them. This is the key of the model nation's task and responsibility. Even as Joseph's responsibility was to show people and model for people how to walk in the king's and the father's ways. And finally, as far as what we're pointing and leading the way to, the wholeness through holiness plan. I call it the wholeness through holiness plan. If you don't understand the importance of holiness, and I'm going to talk about some external standard, we'll talk about what holiness means, Kedusha in the Hebrew means, in a few moments, in a little while, if we get the chance. But wholeness comes through holiness. Wholeness comes through Kedusha. And so this whole idea of the king's plan, we are to model the wholeness through holiness plan of the king to change the atmosphere, to change the paradigms of the earth by introducing the heavenly into the earthly on earth, as it is in heaven. This is wholeness through holiness. Tikkun through the healing powers of Kedusha. Well, we're to do this, we're to be this model as a real-time, real-life, kind of in-your-face, as it were, challenge. Not an arrogant, proud, haughty, self-righteous in-your-face, but just being there where they see it. Rather than just words on a page or an ancient scroll that tells you what to do, we are to be real-life people demonstrating what to do, how to operate in those texts and in the words on those pages and on those scrolls. We're a real-time, real-life option, challenge presented to other people to let them see, the nations and the people of the world, let them see what it looks like in human form, with mistakes and all, with warts and all that we present, to begin to keep moving toward this ideal of the Josephian character and nature and the great kingdom enterprise model nation plan. We do this on a day-to-day basis, not by being superior morally, but by overcoming our own evil inclinations and teaching them that they can do the same too. Every human being since the Adamic mess in the garden with Hava and the serpent has this evil inclination, Yetzer Hara in Hebrew. And the idea is if we're left to our own ways, we have no white lines, we have no boundaries of our road, we have no rumble strips alongside the road, we have no shoulder of mercy, we have no break before this is the world scenario. We can overcome. The Holy One has given us the means, the methodology and the technology and the model and the example to overcome our evil inclination. How do we do it? How do we teach the world to do it? We have to learn it ourselves, and it's not easy. It's not quick. It takes years. It takes decades. It takes a lifetime. It takes generations sometimes to overcome the inclination by focusing on and doing what the Creator says is good, what He says is holy, what He says is kadosh. Focusing on and doing what the Creator says is good. Beloved, listen. Let your spirit listen. I know what other things the world can tell you to focus on. News is full of it. Your conversations around the rooms at meetings and whatever are full of it. But here's what the Holy One says. Focus on doing what the Creator says is good, what the Creator says is holy, what the Father's will would be. Thereby, in the process of doing the Father's will and doing what the Creator says is good and what the Creator says is holy and what the Creator says is healthy and what the Creator says is clean, is tahor. Thereby we maximize potential for fruitfulness that is in us, and we do so with regard to our environment around us in this earth and are the people who could connect themselves with us. Maximizing potential for fruitfulness, for goodness, for tov, for our becoming a fountain of good things, of pleasant, pleasing, healing, healthy things for the world, a fountain of joy, a fountain of wise problem-solving approaches to all things as opposed to complaint, murmuring, blame, games, and vengeance and vigilante justice ideas. Instead, wise problem-solving, restoration mentality and modalities, and hopefully maximizing shalom in the world, peace on earth, and goodwill toward men. This is the high calling of Am Yisrael. We are to be the model nation, pointing and leading the way. And we even demonstrate by our own failures how to overcome the evil inclination and show to people that restoration can come, redemption can come, hope can come through focusing on and doing what the Creator says is good, what the Creator says is holy, what the Creator says is bringing about shalom. We become peacemakers, shalom asars, building shalom. Well, that is our mission. It is a glorious mission. It is a mission that should be stirring within your heart, a passion that goes far beyond anything else in the world. This is our most important purpose in life, is to become this model nation, not just individuals, but as a collective, working alongside with other people, understanding their purpose versus our purpose, working in collaboration, working in cooperation with the others who are becoming called to this Joseph nation, new nation, great nation calling. But yet, warning, the Holy One never promised it was going to be easy. He never promised a rose garden. And if there is going to be any rose garden time along the way, watch out for the thorns, because this is not for amateurs. This is not for the weak of heart. This calling is a great calling, and a great calling requires great perseverance and great endurance and great overcoming. So the same day that the Holy One told Avram, back in Genesis chapter 12, that he was going to make of him and of his seed a great nation, he also told him something else. Well, he told him that this great nation was going to be a blessing to every family on the earth. But he told him something else. He warned us. He warned Avram. He warned us all through these conversations with Avram. The message from heaven, the Devarim were that not everyone was going to receive us or our message or our example and model that we provide with open arms. Well, take a deep breath. Let your spirit be awakened and strengthened within you, because we will not always be received. We will not often be received with open arms. Our message and our model will not be just stood at and gazed at in awe and wonder. There will be individuals, there will be little small groups that awaken and come and embrace with open arms the calling of the Joseph nation upon them. All but many will not. He said, the Holy One warned Avram, he said, those who bless you, these are the ones that will come forth, the few that will come forth from all the different families of the earth gradually, one by one, two by two, family by family, household by household, but not all at one time. Those who bless you, I will bless, he said. But there's another side to the story. And he told Abraham from the very beginning, before this whole great nation theme got started, before the great plan was revealed, he said, but the voice of the Creator said, but him who curses you, kalal, who demeans you, who tries to make you small, who tries to diminish you, him who curses you with the kalal verb in Hebrew, him I will curse in the arar sense. The Hebrew word is arar here. I will cause them to undergo limitations and restrictions, and I will cause them not to be the most important thing in the world. They will diminish in their importance and their significance. Well, this is the message. There will be those who bless us, but there will also be those who curse us. Well, we are in a time, as we begin our Parsha Shemot studies, as we begin the whole book of Shemot, we understand Egypt has chosen its path. They will not bless us. That happened under Joseph. And when Joseph disappeared and no one rose up to take his position, no one rose up in his attributes and his character to take his place, then as Egypt decided not to bless us. The king, the Pharaoh, chose to hate us. And so the second part of the story, the second part of the warning of Avram, to Avram from the Holy One, him who curses you, I will curse. Him who kalals you, I will arar. That is about to take place. If you want to understand the hardening of the heart of Pharaoh, if you want to understand the plagues and the reason for what took place, it is that he is araring Egypt. He is bringing Egypt, the nation who chose to curse Israel, down where they cannot impact the world at the level that they thought they would. And it will release Israel to be the model that it was called to be. So, now as we get started on this entire journey through the book of Exodus, remember that I told you, no rose garden. 3 chapters into the adventure, the Holy One spilled the beans to Avram. After calling Avram in chapter 12, in chapter 15, he says, the Holy One says, now this is the way it's going to work out. Know certainly, he said, chapter 15, know certainly that your seed, Avram, will be strangers, will be ger, will be strangers, foreigners, that will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and they will serve them. Israel will serve the nation that they, and then it says, and they, being the nation in question, will afflict. Anah is the Hebrew word. Oppress Israel, B'nai Israel, your seed, for 400 years. I don't have time to unpack the 400 years right now, but let me understand that there was a literal 400 years. Not all of it was spent with Egypt. But here we are. Know certainly that your seed will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and will serve them, and they will afflict, Anah, oppress, persecute them for 400 years. That's it. No rose garden. No illusions of everybody's supposed to accept you and love you and like you, and you're going to be in the majority, and you're going to rule the world, and you're going to be able to issue decrees of righteous. That's not the way this is going to work. You're going to be oppressed. And this is part of the plan, because it's in the deepest, lowest, darkest areas of human life that the majesty of the Holy One, his Kedusha, shines the greatest and makes the most proof of his goodness. Well, even though he told us that we would be oppressed for 400 years, at least there was some encouraging news back in chapter 15 about this, and I'll call it a temporary light affliction, borrowing language from Rav Shaul of Tarsus. This temporary light affliction tempered by this. He says, the Holy One promised Avram in chapter 15, I will judge Din, I will exercise dominion over, and I will either bless or arar, determining upon which way they've chosen to act to you. I will judge Din, the nation that they have served. In the aftertime, they, being your seed, Avram, will come out with great wealth. Not only will they come out of that, they'll come out with great wealth. What it's for, we'll have to learn later. There is a purpose for the wealth. That's not just so we can bask in our wealth. The wealth is for the service that we do to the nations. It is for the part of the grand plan of teaching and modeling the way, not about showing off our ability to earn money. Well, so we're going to come out with great wealth, and he says, the Holy One tells Avram, in the 4th door, in the 4th cycle, it's more than just a generation. In the 4th door, they will return here, and here, of course, Sham being the place of the Holy Land, the place of the sojourning of the patriarchs. So, we talked about the fact that we have a great calling. We've talked about the fact that it is not going to be a rose garden. We've talked about the fact that there is a persecution, a long-term persecution, an enslaving, basically, a bondage period of time that teaches us to come to the lowest point and then rise out of the lowest point. And we'll know this. Guess what? It's time for the latter part. It's time for the coming forth as a nation. It's time for the being brought forth. It's time for the being brought forth even with the wealth. And again, we'll talk about what the wealth is for at a later date in our discussions of this book. Know this. This whole story we're about to read about the Exodus, as it's called. This is just a prophetic model. It's just a script. It's just a scroll that tells us what is to come of what is down the road for us, what is in all of our lives. The prophesied abad or service, serving, slave enslavement, anah, persecution, oppression, shuv, turn, din and shuv, judgment, and then to return cycle. Abad, anah, din, shuv. Serve as slaves, get oppressed by, have the judging take place, and then the return cycle. It isn't just going to happen this one time. It isn't just a one-time, once and done story. It is a pattern. The Holy One is establishing a pattern that will repeat itself and does repeat itself multiple times in history. At least 4 doors, 4 diores, dalit resh, dalit resh, yeah, door. A cycle, 4 cycles will take place throughout the entire creation over the course of history. It will take place repetitively until Mashiach reigns. You see, we have the exile in Egypt, we have the Babylon captivity, we have the Roman dispersion, we have the diaspora. Yes, you see, there'll be four doors where this all takes place. And to some extent, in individual lives and individual families, in some ways, we are always in the throes of some of this circle, of this cycle, all the time. This pattern is reproducing itself in our lives every waking moment, every day, every season, every year of our lives. And if we don't understand that, we don't understand why things are happening the way they're happening, why things don't always work out the way we want them to, why it seems people are mean to us or don't understand us or want to get rid of us. We understand that in individual situations, we repeat this process of abad, ana, din, shuv. Serve them as servants. Get oppressed or feel persecuted by them. Let the Holy One determine who blesses and who curses us. And then let us return to who we were created to be and start the cycle again. And this fact that this happens every day, all the time, this is a continuous part of our lives and part defines where we are at a given moment. This is why we do Passover. This is why he told us to every year remember this story, because we are always to be as if we ourselves are coming out, because we are individually coming out of the current pattern of Egypt, out of the current pattern of the Abad, Ana, Din, Shu cycle. We're to tell this story every year to our children and our children's children, because they will continue to do the same until Mashiach comes. So welcome to a new Sefer, a new book of Torah. Welcome to the essential awareness of the horrors of bondage to a maniacal tyrant and the terrible oppression by a people infected with that maniacal leader's hatred, a baseless hatred, or rejection of grace to us. Some people just don't think we're entitled to any level of grace. Well, those are horror. We welcome to the horrors of that. Welcome to the unfathomable depth, though, on the side of the Holy One's love, of the Holy One's covenant commitment to us. He is so enamored with us. He is so proud of us, so joyful in us, so fatherly aware of our calling, that he will never abandon us in this process. And as we learn the horrors of bondage and of oppression by other people, we learn the unfathomable depth of his love and his covenant commitment to the plan, using us as his model nation. We learn, welcome to the bigger picture of the Holy One's calling upon Am Yisrael, upon Bnei Israel as the model nation, as we've talked about under the pattern, after the pattern of Joseph, becoming like Joseph to the world. As Joseph was to Egypt, we are to the world. And finally, we learn in this Sefer, in this book of Torah, toward the end of the book, we learn about the courts and the chambers and the transformative presence of our King, and how that is what we're to bring to the earth. We are to bring the Mishkan, the Mikdash, the tabernacle, the temple, the sanctuary of the holy. We will bring the courts and the throne room of the Holy One into the world's consciousness, into this present world. That is our mission, and that is our job. So what will this book mean to us? What will Sefer Shemot, the book of Exodus, mean to us? How will it impact us? How will it impact our lives? Well, the purpose is to forge us into this great nation, into Am Yisrael, that the world would look after we read this book, as we're studying and we're meditating upon the things of this book, and as it's teaching us these lessons, that the world will look in awe and say, Am Yisrael, hi, here's the nation of Israel, the people of Israel live. May it be so in your life. May it be so in your family, in your household, in your workplace. May it be so in your nation, in your community. May it be so in your generation. Second of all, beyond forging us into the great nation, Sefer Shemot is intended by the Holy One to give us a collective neshama memory bank. We have a collective memory. We are to remember these things as if they all happened to us, because they did happen to us. In our neshama memory, in our eternal being of who we are, the sparks of Yosephian character and attributes, the sparks of divinity that came forth from the breathing of the neshama into Adam. These things, the collective memory bank, will be what it's like to suffer under the oppression of others and the hatred of others. If we don't know that, then we will feel comfortable that we could hate other people. We could somehow oppress or judge or condemn other people because they're different from us. Heaven forbid. This collective neshama memory is what it's like to be a foreigner, what it's like to be a slave, what it's like to be oppressed, what it's like to be persecuted, what it's like to be hated, what it's like to be misunderstood. If we don't understand that, we won't become the Joseph personality. We won't become the great nation. So the collective neshama memory bank, first thing is for forced labor, what it's like to be oppressed and forced to labor. Second of all, to be the object of actual maniacal, diabolical, genocidal hatred. Do you understand? If we don't understand what that feels like, we won't know the passion of the Holy One to rescue the perishing, to deliver those who are hopeless and helpless, and to understand that even as we are objects of maniacal or genocidal hatred, we are simultaneously the object of unimaginable love, of healing, redemptive, restorative love that can heal all the wounds and erase all the scars and dry all the tears of all the men may do to you. Nothing compares to what God will do with us, in us, the object we are of unimaginable love. Third thing that is in our is to become in our collective memory banks by virtue of reading and studying Sefer Shemot, the book of Exodus, is the idea of burning bush revelation, that the Holy One wishes to speak to us. He wishes to talk spirit to spirit to us. And while we may not experience an actual bush burning, the Holy One is releasing into the earth and calling a nation to be a people who is able to receive spirit-to-spirit revelation and understand and trust for and believe in miraculous, supernatural deliverance for us and for our children and for our families and for our nations and for all people. And the idea of learning about having a collective memory of being betrothed to the Holy One with words as his nation. And then the growing pains of going from betrothal to where we actually serve as his helpmate, as his people upon the earth, as his co-laborers, co-workers upon the earth. And then also, as far as what Sefer Shemot, what the book of Exodus will mean to us and do in us, it will introduce us to the private and communal Kedusha protocols of the Creator of the universe. Private and communal Kedusha protocols. Holiness protocols, you might say in English. But holiness is like a noun word, an idea, a concept in English. But Kedusha is energy, pulsing, radiating, awakening, empowering energy in the Hebrew. It's Kedusha. It is that the same energy that causes the four living creatures to sing holy, holy, holy in the presence of the Holy One. Is the same that causes the elders to consistently bow when they see the greatness of the Holy One and to throw their crowns down before him. It causes the angels and the cherubim to sing and to cry and to serve him. It causes the saints of all the ages to rejoice in him. This is Kedusha. And to the idea of the book of Exodus will be to introduce us to Kedusha protocols, to learn how to bring the atmosphere and the energy of the courts of heaven to earth to operate in real time upon real life situations as we think of them. These Kedusha protocols are so important to us. This is our secret. This is the secret that causes us to become the great nation. As we incorporate, as we embrace, as we receive inside us and begin to float with these Kedusha protocols and this energy from heaven, then we begin to have the impact upon the world that we were designed to have. These, how we steward the presence of the Holy One, how we bring honor to his holy name, the name of the one that Joseph prophesied would visit us. So, the Holy One told Yaakov before he went down to Egypt, he says, "Do not fear to go down to Egypt, because I will make of you a goy gadol, a great nation there." Well, welcome to the beginning of great nation birth pains. But here's the deal. A great nation needs a great story. An epic, take your breath away level and quality story of redemption and restoration and healing and empowerment. Well, that's what we're going to get. A great nation needs a great story. Well, this is our great story. This is our great song. The first rule of holy nation building is freedom ain't worth nothing if it's free. It has to cost you everything. So, if we understand that, we can kind of go forward to looking into Sefer Shemot. I want to go to our call to worship. We'll then spend just the last few minutes discussing it. Our call to worship goes as follows. Sing it if you know it. Baruch hu Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vayeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amin V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. And now may you open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah. For we are but strangers in the earth, so do not hide your commandments from us, for your word is a light unto our paths, light unto our ways. At the closing of Sefer Bereshit, of last book, the death and unburial of Yosef. He was dead, but he was unburied. Then Yosef took an oath from the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and you are to carry up my bones from here. This was the calling that will define the book of Exodus, the calling, taking up his bones. And then it said, before in the end of Sefer Bereshit, Vayamot Yosef ben Me'ah v'eser shanim. And Yosef died at the age of 110 years. V'achantu ato. And they embalmed him, or they put spices on him, anointed him their way. Vayisim Aharon b'Mitzrayim, and they placed him in a box, in an Aharon, in an ark in Mitzrayim. Well, we're on notice. The story of Yosef and his brothers has not all been told. Oh, there's an untold portion of the story. There are unburied bones. There are things left undone. There are words left unsaid. There are devarim left responded. There is a model nation left to appear. All the bones are in the box. They are awaiting transport. And in the opening lines of our Parsha and of our book of Exodus, Ve'ele Shemot b'nei Israel, and these are the names, the attributes of the sons of Israel. Remember, we were talking about Joseph, and these are the attributes of the sons of Israel. Ha'ba'im mitzrayma et Yaakov, who came to Egypt unto Yaakov, with Yaakov. Ush uvetu ba'u, each one coming with his household. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zebulon, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher. These are the attributes. These are the names of the sons of Israel. These are who we are, but in the pattern, being built in the pattern of Yosef. Vayehi kol nefesh yotzei Yarek Yaakov. And all the souls that came forth from Yaakov's loins, Shivim nefesh, 70 souls. We are the counterbalance to the 70 nations of the world. We are to be the counterculture, the counter-kingdom. We are the sons of Reuven and Shimon and Levi and Yehuda and Issachar and Zebulun and Benjamin and Dan and Naphtali and Gad and Asher and Yosef. We are the 70 souls, the counterpart to all the nations and all their ways. All right, we want to go to the wallpaper changes that have happened since we ended the book of Genesis. As we begin Exodus, this is the wallpaper that's changed. Yosef is dead. Yosef's bones are, of course, as we mentioned in the box. And all those of the migration generation, all those who came with Yaakov to Eretz Mizraim are now dead. Second thing, the wallpaper changes. There's been a fivefold mutation of Bnei Israel. We've changed. We're not the same 70 group, the group of wide-eyed sojourners who have come to the land of the pyramids. We're no longer tourists. There are 5 different phrases that are Hebrew words that are used to describe this. First is para, we become fruitful, we've reproduced ourselves exponentially. Second thing is vaish. Let me get my glasses so I can read my own writing here. Vaishratsu. We have sharats, we have swarmed, we have mixed in with the local population, we have outgrown our little Goshen area, and we have gone out and we've begun to mix with other people, like the mixing of fish in the ocean. Vayirbu, the third verb is vayirbu. The root verb is rabah. It means to expand in footprint and influence. We have become an important part of Egyptian society. We have become a niche that has its own impact upon the region. And then fourth verb is vayatsamu, the root verb being atsam. We have become an entrenched force, a monolith, a group that they have to watch out for. We're no longer just isolated out there in Goshen doing our own thing. We now, they look toward us with a jaundiced eye. Why are they invading our world? And then fifth, the final of the five verbs, it's a verb phrase, tamale haaretz. Tamale haaretz, mala being the verb root, mala being, it means to fill and overflow and spill out up into the earth. That's what has happened to Bnei Israel since we left them with Joseph's bones at the end of Genesis chapter 50. So, with all that being said, we've grown, we've been exponentially increased in number, we've increased in footprint and presence, we're all over the place, we're a force to be reckoned with, but here's the question. Where's Joseph? Where are the Joseph persona in us? Where are the God-seeking pioneers? Where are the dreamers? Where in us are those who have the vision for a great harvest to come and a great cosmic restoration? Where are these people? Where are the awestruck hearts like Avraham and Yitzhak and Yaakov? Where are the trembling encounters with the Creator? Where's the seeking? There's none. We're just spreading out. We're just becoming part of Egypt, part of the territory, part of the wallpaper. Well, that's got to change. The third thing that's happened as wallpaper changes is the change has taken place in Egypt already. There's been a regime change. There's been an attitude change. As we have changed our presence in the nature of our presence in our society, they have changed in their relationship to us. It says there arose, there came up a melech chadash, a new king, asher lo yada et Yosef. Asher lo yada et Yosef. He did not know or acknowledge or trust or rely upon or see any value in or appreciate what the purposes of Yosef were. Why? We should always be presenting Joseph in all of our things that we do. In America, in South Africa, in Israel, in Philippines, in Malaysia, in Europe, in Great Britain. We should all be, but why? But suddenly they don't see the value of us. A new king arose who would not appreciate the value of Joseph because it was not being presented anymore. We were just mixing in with the rest of the world. If you see what's happening in the world today, in the nations of our various different exile or our diaspora, you will see this is taking place again. The new kings that are rising are not knowing us, not acknowledging us, not appreciating who we are because they don't see the Yosef in us. May the Yosef arise, beloved. Well, this Pharaoh obviously did not have a good eye. He did not have a good eye toward anybody. He did not specifically have a good eye towards even his own advisors, his magicians or sorcerers that he employed. He didn't have a good eye toward the other nations of the world, other peoples of the world, even his own people. He didn't have a good eye toward us particularly. We were the objects. We were the scapegoat that he blamed for everything. Now, the prophetic implications of the land in which we found ourselves, our English Bibles call it Egypt, but that's not found anywhere in the Bible. It's Mitzrayim. That's the word that gets somehow translated as Egypt. Mitzrayim, and it means from narrow straits. From Mitz, Saraim, from multiple narrow straits, from tight areas, from areas that are very difficult, very oppressive, very challenging, very dangerous. That's what Egypt is to us. That's what our lands of exile is to us. If we think somehow this is our utopia, this is our great place, these places of exile, these are not that. These are designed to function for us as a birth canal from which the life force of Joseph is to arise. Mitzrayim means a place of limitations, of restrictions. Similarly, So it will be with South Africa. So it will be with the Philippines. So it will be with Malaysia. So it will be with Great Britain, England, Ireland, Scotland. So it will be with Canada. So it will be with Mexico, the United States of America. So all the South American countries, all the African countries throughout the world, and the European nations. All these are just places of limitation and restriction for us. They are diaspora. They are places we're deployed and sown, but not where we are to find our joy or our hope or our place of belonging. These Mitzrayim places are places where we're hedged in, we're controlled, we're manipulated, we're lied to, we're subjected to insults and misrepresentations and propaganda. We are subjected to increasing levels of bondage to the state and to the culture and to the ethnicity that we serve, and we are in a chamber of compression. And that has to give at some point. We have to come forth. We have to become the Yosef that comes forth, the second coming, which brings forth and shows mercy and compassion and patience and endurance and kindness to the world. All right, the Mitzrayims will have financial constraints. It seemed like the money just doesn't buy anything. It seemed like inflation will eat us alive. We will have health-related restrictions and limitations in these nations. We will have pandemics. We will have plagues. They will come upon us in this. This is a warning sign that Mitzrayim's getting tied up in here. We will have psychological burdens placed upon us. Anger, woundedness, very rancorous rhetoric will cause us to be stressed. This is what happens in nations of like Mitzrayim. And then the oppression will come. A system approved, a system winked at institutional manipulation and repression of thought and speech and worldview and behavior, and ultimately pogroms and persecutions and attacks against us. Well, let's talk a little about this new Egypt's paranoia about us. The world does not understand us because we are not much like Joseph right now. And so the world is paranoid of us. And the world's paranoia forms in hate, and they hate us with a passion. In the story of the Exodus, it says, he said to the people, being the new Pharaoh that arose that knew not Joseph, he said to his people, behold, the people of Bnei Israel are more, Rav, and they're mightier, atzum. We see these two of these verbs are already there. More and mightier than we are. Come, let us deal shrewdly. Let us have hakam. Let us have wisdom. Oh, this wisdom is wisdom. It's not going to be the wisdom of the heavenlies. We are to bring that. He's bringing the wisdom that is demonic wisdom, that is divisive, that is angry, that is not kind. All the things that James talks about in chapter 3. Let us deal wisely, shrewdly, hakam with them, lest they multiply. So this is going to be population control issues. And let us this happen in the event of war, that they also join our enemies. They're paranoid that somehow we're going to take sides in controversies in this world, that we're going to say who's right and who's wrong, and we're going to be subversive. Oh, they're going to be insurrections among us. They misunderstand us so badly. We are not taking sides on this world. What we do is we are on the side of the King of Heaven, and we do what he tells us to do. His will is what matters to us, not who's right or wrong or just or unjust or moral or immoral in a situation as we see it through our eyes, or who we don't like because of what they've done to us. That's not our issues, but he thinks it is, and they're paranoid. They don't understand the Yosef in us. And so he says, well, they may join our enemies and they may fight against us, and then they will go up out of the land. Oh, why does he want us so bad? If we're so scary, if we're so frightening, why does he not want to let us leave? You would think he would want to get rid of us. He wants to kill us with labor. He doesn't want us to get away and live and have our own land. He doesn't want that to happen. So what we see is eventually we have 4 levels of persecution. Phase 1 is conscription to forced labor, projects, overseers, taskmasters. Phase 2 is weaponized work camps. Phase 3 is mandatory population growth control, targeted family planning methodologies. Phase 4 persecution is pogroms of systematic infanticide and murder. Well, we're out of time. I told you we wouldn't get through all of this message. The biggest part of the story, I will tell you, comes in the message of the burning bush at Mount Horeb. I will say only this about that. Look for the first part of the message where the Holy One introduces himself to Moshe, who's going to be his imperfect agent of redemption, as we are imperfect agents of redemption. He is going to be the founder of this great nation, as we are called to be found, little portions of the great nation at where we are. He says to Moshe, he says, take off your sandals, because the place where you amad, the place where you stand and pray, is holy ground. Take off your sandals, take off your bindings, what you're bound to, what you're bound up to protect yourself. And the place where you are standing is Kedusha, as a Kedushal portal, from the heavenly to the earthly. Oh, my dear ones, as we study the Torah today, as you study and have your fellowships and your meetings, and as you meditate upon the ways of Shemot and the ways of the Joseph attributes and character, understand that where you stand is holy ground, is a place of flowing Kedusha, energy, empowerment, inspiration, guidance, direction, wisdom. May it be unto you today in this manner. The place where you stand, the place where you pray, the place where you do this Amidah. May it be holy ground and release holiness into your world. Well, Shabbat Shalom. See you next week.